Thank you. Mr. President, fellow members, and distinguished guests, I first want to thank Bruce for that extraordinary introduction, and I couldn't help but think as I was listening to him, not the part about Jerry Land, but when he started to talk about the other fellow, I thought to myself, I'd really like to meet that guy sometime. But in a more serious vein, I am very honored and humbled to have been chosen as a 2010 recipient of the Jerry Land Medal. By my count, I'm the 59th recipient of this most prestigious award. And also by my count, I still recall the early presentations of this medal by Jerry Land himself, and they were always an event of their own. He was and still is an imposing figure in the maritime industry, and he had a long and productive life's voyage of 92 years. This medal is really a celebration, in my view, of his career, and it seemed appropriate for me to think back and do a little bit of research in preparation for accepting this award tonight. And confirming some of the things that Bruce said, I found a couple of interesting quotations that I'd like to read to you and share. One, and I quote, is from a newspaper out west, R. Stanley Lowe, chairman of the Wyoming Veterans Affairs Commission and author of Wyoming's Great Admiral Emery Scott Land, a book, compared Jerry Land to a bumblebee. According to every principle of aerodynamics, it is a physical impossibility for the tiny wings of a bumblebee to lift a body that big and fly. The only problem with those scientific principles is that no one ever told the bumblebee that he can't fly. The article continued. Admiral Land was assigned a task that others thought was impossible to accomplish. He had to transform the pathetically small peacetime U.S. merchant marine fleet into a mighty wartime armada for transporting men and war materials to battle areas all over the world. To do this, he launched the most ambitious shipbuilding program ever seen, building thousands of ships and training more than 2,000 merchant mariners to sail them, thereby making America one of the world's largest maritime powers in history. And he had only a couple of years to do it, unquote. The words, "it can't be done," were 4 words that just simply didn't fit in Jerry Land's lexicon. One of my other favorite pastimes is to wonder about phrases that we use all the time, and I know many of us here have heard the phrase, "the whole 9 yards." I came across another piece by a Patricia T. O'Connor, who apparently is a recognized word maven, and she noted the following. This is a quote. "To date, the earliest known use of the whole 9 yards in print comes from Senate testimony by Vice Admiral Emery S. Land in 1942 about production at 9 shipyards. Admiral Land, replying to a question that had been asked of him, said, quote, "You have to increase from 7.72 to 12 for the average at the bottom of that 5th column," referring to some figures, "for the whole 9 yards." Admiral Land, of course, was referring to the 9 shipyards working under his direction in World War II. Whether that's the original derivation is uncertain, but it certainly is the first one in print of how we come to that phrase. And one thing is clear, that when it came to those 9 shipyards, Jerry Land made sure they gave the whole 9 yards. In the earliest years of my career, I was very fortunate to receive some advice from a very successful businessman and owner of 2 of those shipyards and a close associate of Admiral Land himself, and that is John A. McCone, former chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission and the CIA under President Kennedy. His advice to me was that a successful voyage through life was comprised of 3 phases. The first was to gain an education. Second was to secure one's financial well-being. And the third was to give back to society that made the first 2 possible. Being young at the time, very impressionable, I took those words very much to heart, and in many ways they have served as channel markers along my voyage so far. I've often thought of John McCone's advice and concluded that the voyage is a bit more complex than I had originally understood it. A successful life, in my opinion, does have 3 phases, but I would characterize them somewhat differently. The first phase is to acquire a good basic education. The second phase is to secure one's financial well-being and to continue one's education. And the third phase is to giving back and to still continue one's education, and at least as I have found it, one has to still continue to try and secure the financial well-being that one hoped they achieved in the second phase. And so when I look back at life, I see it in a little different way. I think that the 3 phases of life, they're not sequential, they're additive. And as a consequence, each one becomes more and more interesting and more complex as time goes on. Throughout my first phase at the Bronx High School of Science first, and then at Webb, and then at Harvard, I was very fortunate to be in the company of very many bright and highly motivated young men and women. Throughout my second phase, I was again fortunate to be in the company of many bright and hardworking people, younger than myself, my own age, and older than I was. And throughout my third phase, I have been surrounded by a multitude of bright and dedicated and very talented people from many different backgrounds and a wide diversity of outlook. Whatever successes I've had along the way are directly attributable to many of those bright people who have had the privilege of knowing as friends and associates. Many of them I see in this room tonight. So it is with a strong sense of humility that I gratefully accept the Vice Admiral Jerry Land Medal with a special thanks to all those who have helped me navigate through a terrific life's voyage to date. This award, for many ways, is for them. I'm especially happy that my wife, Rita, is here and who has shared most of this third voyage of my life, third phase of my voyage, is here to share this honor with me tonight. Thank you, Rita. And my only question, I think, in closing is why this award is now. As far as I'm concerned, this voyage is just getting started. To my sponsor, Bruce Rosenblatt, to the Society, I can only say thank you and bon voyage to all.